So what does it take to make $100,000 in P&C in insurance for home and auto, cars, boats, motorcycles, all that stuff? It's doable. And if we're going to break it down into a yearly amount, it's a little tougher, but I'm going to show you the examples and how you can make a six-figure income year one. Now, keep in mind, most agents don't do this in the first 3 years. Some do it in 5 years, some do it in 10. Whatever the case is, you've got to determine whether your work amount or load is sufficient to hit your goals. If you add money into the mix and you start buying leads, you start working things, you start doing all sorts of gifts and whatever the case is, we're going to show you those too. So let's dive in. Essentially, if we wanted to make $100,000, I'm going to average the normal typical policies. So for an agency, you should be about 15% to 12% in commission. In most cases, it's 15%, but just to be safe, let's just go with 12% to make it. I'd rather make it look worse than make it look better. So we're going to do 0.12 times or divided by the 100,000. So that gives us the amount of premium that we have to earn in that time frame. So if we're trying to do this in the first year, we have to make $833,334 worth of premium. The average across the United States is about $1,250 per policy. It's about $1,250 per home is the common, and it's about actually $1,700 for auto. In most cases, you're looking at $1,700 plus $1,250. Now that's before all the rate increases. That was actually mid-year of 2022. Near the end of 2022, you're probably going to be looking about $1,300 or $1,400 on here and closer to $1,800 or more on the auto. I'm a little bit of a realist because I've been in the industry for 12 years. I don't believe these numbers are correct. In my experience, when you're shopping and it's price focused, you've got to beat the average price. So you've got to come in and beat somebody else. Yes, I know my channel is about value-based selling, not price focused, but let's just focus on, we're assuming you're new and you can only go off a price because you don't have that knowledge of the value yet. But in this case scenario, I'm going to say no. Let's not go off of these higher numbers. Let's just assume the worst case scenario. So the average policy we're going to say is $1,200. Honestly, I think across the board that's common, whether you're in Texas, you're going to be close to that. If you're in Michigan, we're actually close to that, and we're one of the highest states. And if you're in different states, keep in mind, if your main focus is renters policies and auto, that's going to be a little bit of a problem because a renter's policy is only $200 to $400 per year. So you're going to be a lot lower than that because your average policy for home is going to be less. So if we do the math, if we need to get $833,000, let's just say this is in the year, and we're averaging $1,200 per policy, that is going to equate to be roughly 695 or 94 policies. It's 0.445. So in this scenario, we're going to say 694. If we have 694 policies that we have to write in this whatever time frame we give ourselves, we just divide that by the months. So in my scenario, if I wanted to do this in 12 months, we need to write 58 policies per month. Now for new people, that's near impossible. That is a very difficult feat to reach. In a lot of scenarios, let's say we want to do it in a 3-year span and we want to make that 6 figures in 3 years. Keep in mind, as I'm growing this, I might write 300 my first year, and then 400 my second year, and then 500 my third year. I've by far passed this in that 3-year time frame. Even if I'm going half speed and I write 200 my first year, 200 my second year, and 200 my third year, we're looking at about 600,000, not including the loss rate that we're going to have. That's what most agents don't calculate into their premiums, is you're going to lose about 10 to 15% on common for the average industry. If you have really good retention, then you're going to be 0 to 10%. If you have normal retention, you're going to lose about 10 to 15%. And if you have really bad retention to where you're not paying attention to anybody, you're going to lose 15% or more. Hopefully it's not more than that, because then you need to focus more on retaining than you do selling. It's just going to spin your wheels till you can't make it. If we wanted to do this in 36 months, now we just have to write 19 policies. Now, it's not going to work out exactly because that's really going to equate to about 820,000. So we're going to be a little bit short in this scenario. But this is more common. So if you're going to write 19 policies, there's a couple ways we can increase this and actually get a better rate of return on this type of premium. $200 and some odd thousand a year isn't necessarily going to be the growth that most people want. Imagine if you're only making a percentage of this, you're not going to make a whole lot of money that year. For example, if we did this 19 policies and we did that times $1,200, so you're going to write about $22,800 per month, which is actually very common in the industry. That's what a typical agent will write. But if you multiply that by 12, essentially you're writing $273,000. Now you're only getting 12% of that. So the income in the 12-month span of $273,000 is going to be roughly $32,000 to $33,000 in income. Now that's not enough to live on in most cases. So even though you're writing that 273, that's not even going to get you close to that six figures. You got to remember, we're almost 4 times that to get to there after all of our retention. So you're going to be closer to the 120,000 per year, but it's going to take some time. The other question that you've got to ask yourself is where I'm going to find 19 people per month that I can have in business. Because keep in mind, we're trying to make an net income of 100,000. So what we're doing is we're losing out on some of this business because we have to typically pay for expenses, gas, technology, different things that we're going to use, CRM systems, marketing, all of that is going to go into it if we have our customer service. Here's the thing that we need to determine. So in order to do this without calculating the income, which we'll calculate the expenses here in just a moment, what we need to figure out is what can we do to improve these numbers? Because this is going to take some time. 32,000, I'm probably looking at about $24,000 to $20,000. So I'm only going to make about 12,000 my first year. My second year, maybe 20,000 to 25,000. And by my third year, I should be up at that higher number. But in this scenario, we need to make a better way to earn this money. What we need to do is we need to double our policy count. And this is where the skill comes in. This is where training and following videos and honing your skills and your talk paths with customers are. There's different levels of customers. So if we were to rank them on a scale from, let's just say 1 to 5, with 1 being the best and 5 being the worst. If we can get our leads between a 1 and a 5, or even if you want to do 1 to 10, if we can get our leads in between a 4 or better, a 5, a 6, a 7, or an 8 or 9, then that quality or that intent of the customer is going to be better. So if we're going to rank the intent, if I'm buying leads, let's say I'm spending a certain amount of dollars per lead, the intent always isn't there. We've got a lot of really good companies that sell leads, and I'll put a link in the description below of the ones that I work with. The lead vendors are only going to get you so far. So personally, I count a third of my business on leads. Okay? If that's the case, I know I've got to purchase a certain amount. I'm investing into my business. In that case, honestly, the intent of a lead is going to be closer to a 3 or below. And that's not exactly the customers I need to get. The problem that you're running into if you're in 2022 and probably 2023 is the next best type of referral is coming from mortgage brokers. And mortgage brokers are going to bring in a ton of really high intent. These are people that are purchasing homes. They're going to be a 7, 8, and a 9, and a 10. So they're going to be at this higher scale of intent. And you're going to sell 70% of those. So if I get 10 leads from a mortgage broker, I'm going to sell 7 of them. If I get 300 leads from a vendor, then I'm probably only going to sell about 15 of those. So I've got my 23 policies. The thing is, I'm paying about $2,100 for these leads, and I might be paying maybe $1,000 and not necessarily buying the leads, but connecting and gas and just really building the relationship with these types of mortgage brokers. That's doable, but in order to get 7 leads or 10 leads from mortgage brokers, in today's age, you got to have a handful of mortgage brokers or some really finite ones. If you start off in this boat and you can get this to 20, then you're set, because we haven't calculated the per policy. So this is how many policies we need. But in our agency, our average policy count, I believe, is 1.98 per household. So every household that we sell, we essentially sell 2 policies. Sometimes it's auto and renters, sometimes it's auto and home, sometimes it's auto, home, and umbrella. And then it's sometimes just auto. In that case, or the home only, in those cases, we've averaged to be about 2 policies per household. That lowers, because of the talent or the skill that we've possessed, the focus on their coverage and focus on what they need. We found that getting this to the correct spot, one, gives you a higher policy count. In most cases, people will want an umbrella, and that's going to add $300 to your policy count. In other cases, they may not, and that's just really where they're at in their life. You just got to present what fits their needs and their lifestyle at the time. For us, it's about 2 policies per household, and we really need to work on the lead conversion, because this is about a 5% conversion, and in some days you're only going to have a 3% conversion. So this might not be 15, this might be 12 or even 10. It just depends on how well and the quality of the leads, whether another agent got a hold of them and sold it. So we've got about 19 policies. We can multiply that by 2. Now we're at our 38 policy count. Because we focused on doing the 2 policies per household, we're able to average our amount. So if we do the math again, we've got 38 policies times $1,200 on average. We're now doing about $45,600 per month. Multiply that by 12. In that first year, you have the potential to write $547,200 in premium. In turn, you're going to earn about $65,664 in return revenue. You're probably going to pay a good chunk. If we're paying $800 a piece here, we're $2,100, so we're $24,000 subtract from the 65. So now we're closer to $40,000 in profit, but that's your first year. You're going to have renewals the second year. And maybe you're at the 15%. That's really the goal that you should be shooting for if you're doing the personal lines. In this scenario, by year 3, you should be at a 6-figure income. So it doesn't just stop there. Obviously, this is a good scenario. This is not the average agent. This is somebody that's going to work 12-hour days or 10-hour days and put the extra legwork in, because to get a mortgage broker or a COI, it doesn't have to be a mortgage broker. It could be a real estate agent. To get somebody that you can get a 70% conversion, you're going to want to focus as much time as you can on this scenario. Honestly, you're probably looking close to 20 connections. To get those takes time. It takes trust. It takes the ability to connect with them. If you've already got it, then good. You might be able to get those 10 per month, sell 2 policies to that home and auto customer, and now you've got 20 policies per month. That in turn is going to write about $25,000 worth of business, which still isn't even quite there. We need some supplement. We need to make additional policies from some other source. And that's the scenario to where agents will typically get over 100,000. By the end of that year 3, maybe year 4, if year 5, and maybe year 10, depending on the speed that you go, you will either route, as long as you retain this business in the right path, 15% or less, you will get to that 6-figure income quicker or later, depending on the speed that you want to go. Either way, you're going to make it. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. 95% sure I did the math correct. So give me a shout out if I did it wrong somewhere. The whole thing's horrible. All right, guys, I'm Mark W. Flockhart. I'll see you in the next video.